I was unconscious on the bathroom floor at home alone. And what happened next was this insistent male voice just kept talking to me urgently. And he said, Wendy, you've got to wake up now or you're going to go home. And I knew he meant I was going to die. And I remembered calling out to God. I remembered calling out for help as I was going down from that pain and feeling that bursting. And so I'm lying on the side. I'm lying on my side on the bathroom floor, curled up in a fetal position, just clutching my belly, and I'm looking up to see where that voice is coming from. And Tia, it just, my belief system, it just blew wide open because my whole bathroom was filled with.
I'm here today with Wendy Williams. Wendy had two near death experiences in August of 1997 while pregnant. She met her angels for the first time when an aorta burst while home alone and again the night before surgery. She's also had other spiritual experiences as well and is here to share with us. Thank you so much, Wendy, for joining me. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, well, likewise. Thank you for having me here. So, what happened with the near death experiences? It was so surprising. It just really came out of left field for me in many ways because it just changed my belief system completely. And what happened was I was newly pregnant and we were over the moon because it was my second pregnancy, but there had been infertility and there also had been two ectopic pregnancies. So it was a very wanted pregnancy. And we had an 18-month-old toddler at the time. So on the day of the first near death experience, I was working at home alone and I just didn't feel right. I was really, really restless. And I'd had just one visit to the OBGYN because I was only 10 weeks pregnant and everything had looked good according to the doctor. But I was noticing two things. I had this heartburn that just would not stop. And I had called the doctor's office about it a couple of times, and they'd said, "Oh, just take Mylanta. Every pregnancy is different." And as I said, I did not have this last time, and it just really was catching my attention. Also, I was having a vivid dream multiple times a week, and it was always the same dream. And I didn't understand the concept of prophetic dreams that our subconscious, our unconscious might be trying to tell us something, or our guides can be trying to tell us something. And what would happen in the dream was I would see this terrible storm out at sea, and I would see a sailing vessel with multiple masts. And the storm comes up, and there was all this ripping and tearing, which just like winches and cleats, and everything's being torn off the boat in this horrible storm. And all the masts get torn down, and the ship breaks in two and goes down. Now, it doesn't take a master dream interpreter to tell you, Wendy, your ship's about to go down. But I didn't understand that. So if you ever have a really vivid dream that just keeps going like that, just try and sit with it and say, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to tell me? What should I be aware of? Because it's important. So I'm working at home alone. And as I said, I just could not get comfortable. So I kept trying to focus, but it's like, I have all this pain in my abdomen. I took some more Mylanta, I try and lay down, and I kept just feeling like something was not right. And all of a sudden, I had this feeling of impending doom like I have never had in my life. And I just ran for the bathroom thinking something's terribly wrong. I'm going to be sick. I don't understand what's happening. And as I got into the bathroom, I felt this incredible pain in my abdomen. And I looked down in surprise because it felt like someone had stuck a knife in me. And it felt like an organ burst at that point. And I passed out. So I was unconscious on the bathroom floor at home alone. And what happened next was this insistent male voice just kept talking to me urgently. And he said, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up now or you're going to go home. And I knew he meant I was going to die. And I remembered calling out to God. I remembered calling out for help as I was going down from that pain and feeling that bursting. And so I'm lying on the side. I'm lying on my side on the bathroom floor, curled up in a fetal position, just clutching my belly, and I'm looking up to see where that voice is coming from. And Tia, it just, my belief system, it just blew wide open because my whole bathroom was filled with angels. They were huge. They were 8, 9, 10 feet tall. There was so much light coming from them. There was so much love coming from them. They just filled the entire bathroom. They just filled my world. And the male angel, repeated the same message. And I said, I understand, but I can't walk. I don't know how to get to the phone because this was 1997. It's before we had cell phones glued to our hand or glued in our back pocket. And I needed to get to a landline. What he said to me was very telling. And he said, you just have to be willing to try. And I think that was so important. And I think he was speaking on multiple levels because we can connect beautifully with our higher self, with guides, with God, whoever we believe in as the divine, as a higher power, if we even have that belief system. But no one can come in and wave their magic wand and do it for us. You know, we've got to be willing to put in the effort and to try, even when it feels like it's just too hard or like it's impossible. So I managed to get up on my hands and knees. And at that point, it was like being gently flown the short distance to the phone that was on the nightstand next to my bed. So again, I'm like, oh, wow, it just happened. And I'm reaching up for the phone. And I did have a brief thought, oh, who do I call? He just said to call for help. So I decided to call my husband at work. And because I knew he worked 5 minutes away and he had one of the two cars. I had no car. Our nanny's at the park and with our toddler, and she has one car, and my husband's at work with the other car. Didn't even think to call 911, really didn't enter my mind. I was a healthy 36-year-old. I had never called 911 in my life. So I decided to call my husband, and miracles continued because I reached him. I don't think I've ever reached him at work before or after. So I was getting so much assistance that day. It was incredible. And I give him a lot of credit because all I said to him was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me there now? And all he said was, on my way. And I could hear him just throw the phone down. So I knew he'd be home in 3 minutes. And I quickly called the OBGYN office at that point. I told them what was happening, that I had this searing pain. It felt like something had burst, and that my abdomen was just distending really oddly, was getting bigger and bigger. And that my husband was on my way to bring me to their office. And they said, great, perfect. When you get here, don't park your car. We're going to meet you curbside with a wheelchair. We don't want you walking. Again, I was very fortunate because my OBGYN office was located at the hospital. And my local community hospital was just the perfect place for me to be. They did a lot of births. They did approximately 5,000 births a year at that time. And that meant they had a beautiful, big just system for GYN emergencies and that sort of thing. So I was really, really fortunate. So we get to the doctor office at the hospital, and I do get whisked up by wheelchair to their ultrasound room. and the ultrasonographer and my husband have to help me get up on the table because I can't even get up on the table. I'm just doubled over in so much pain. And it just felt like systems were starting to shut down. And the ultrasonographer, she starts doing the exam, and I'm looking at her screen in puzzlement because I can't see a thing on it. It just all looks black. So I asked her, I was like, is that on? Is your machine working? And her reply was, I'm going to get the doctor now. I'll be right back. So she ran and got not only a OBGYN physician, but a nurse midwife. And they now come and crowd in the room, and the doctor takes over and starts doing the ultrasound. And within 30 seconds, he says to me, Wendy, you've got a major bleed. You've got a major abdominal bleed. I don't know where it's coming from, but what you're seeing on the screen, this machine's working perfectly. The reason we can't see any organs is that's just all blood. You've got a major blood loss going on. I don't know where it's coming from. I can't visualize it. We need to hospitalize you now. So someone ran and got a stretcher and brought that over to the doctor's office because they didn't even want me sitting upright at that point. They wanted me prone to try and stop the bleeding, and they were propping my feet up to keep blood flow going to my head. And so I get whisked over and I get admitted directly onto the GYN floor, and transferred right into the hospital bed. And they let me know, okay, you can't get up even to go to the bathroom. You need to just stay in the bed. What's your blood type? Do you know your blood type? I said, absolutely. Everyone should know their blood type. And so I told them it's A negative. And I can hear through the closed door, I can hear the nurse because they put me right next to the nursing station, which also caught my attention because I worked in healthcare. So I'm kind of seeing more details than most people might notice. I knew that meant they were really, really worried about me. So she's calling the Puget Sound Blood Bank because in the Seattle area we have a regional blood bank to not waste blood, being such a precious resource. And she comes back in to the room pretty quickly, not looking happy, and says, I can't get any A negative blood for her because there was evidently a major train collision in the Seattle area a few days before, and they had used up all the A negative blood at that point. So there wasn't any conversation of going to universal donor blood at that point. They just really wanted to find some A negative blood for me and just be able to start transfusing. We briefly discussed taking me right to surgery, but decided not to because, again, the body is a miracle. And perhaps what had burst had been a non-essential organ. So I'm kind of like going through in my mind, what could those be? Could that be my appendix? Could that be my gallbladder? Trying to think what those might be. And I'm just trying to visualize a great outcome for both me and for the baby. Because of course, I'm not only worried about myself, I'm worried about my pregnancy, this very wanted pregnancy. So they were able to get blood about 5 or 6 hours later that night and did start transfusing. I am in so much pain. I'm trying not to writhe around in the bed. I'm trying to just lie still and let this just heal itself and let this abate and just see what can happen. But so much pain. I'm blowing through all the painkillers that they have, and I'm to the point where I'm on morphine. But I'm still just in too much pain from the IV because they're having to transfuse so rapidly. And I can see we're going through bag after bag. But again, I'm very comfortable that I'm getting great medical care. I'm so grateful to be where I am. And I'm being cared for by my own OBGYN physician, as well as his partners and great nurses. And I've not only had my physician for the delivery of our toddler, but he had been my surgeon for 2 ectopic pregnancies as well as for the infertility. So I just really felt I was in great hands, because there was a brief discussion, should I be transferred downtown? And I said, no, I do not want to go to a teaching hospital and take that ambulance ride at this point. I know I'm in great hands. So everybody agreed, yes, stay where you are. So we did wait and watch for about 3 days, and I could feel myself walking between worlds. And it was very hard to stay conscious. It was very hard to answer questions when the healthcare, when the medical staff would come in and check on me many, many times during the day and night. And what concerned me the most, Tia, as I could feel myself deciding, do I stay or do I go? Because I didn't really care. Oh, that is so not me. That is not me at all. I have always been just so enthusiastic, such a fighter. I just figure out challenges. So I'm like, ooh, this is not good, because I just felt like not even a slow leak in a tire. I could just feel the life force leaving as I was bleeding out. And on day 3, my physician tells me, Wendy, we've got to do surgery. You are officially bleeding out. We can tell by your hemoglobin A1, or by your hemoglobin, because we've been, of course, measuring that and other things carefully. And you probably know, and you can see how many bags of blood we're going through. And also my abdomen at that point, I looked like I was about 6 months pregnant, because there was so much blood just pooling in my abdomen where it shouldn't be. It wasn't going correctly through my bloodstream. So I agreed to the surgery at that point. That was not an easy decision to make, because who wants to have surgery when they're pregnant in their first trimester? Transfusions, morphine. This is not recommended medical care, but it was the reality. So I agreed to the surgery. It was going to be the next morning, 7 a.m., the first surgery of the day. It was going to be my own physician as well as one of his partners. So I'm trying to relax that night in the hospital. I'm alone. I've just had dinner. So it's around 5 o'clock, because you get your dinner so early. And I'm just trying to picture the best possible outcome. The minute I picture that, I pop right out of my body. I leave my body. And I look back over my left shoulder briefly, and I see myself as Wendy in the hospital bed. And I did have a humorous moment, because I just felt so much better. Oh, that best possible outcome was to get out of my body. And I remember thinking, wow, look at her. She is a hot mess. She's whiter than a ghost. She's just whiter than the sheets. And she looks like the wild woman of Borneo, because my hair, of course, is like crazy looking. 3 days in hospital bed. There hasn't exactly been a mirror to like brush or comb your hair. So I just looked. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I referring to myself in the third person? Why am I saying she? And that made me realize I was in pure soul form. I felt fantastic. No more pain. I'm not so worried. And I look again at myself as Wendy in the bed, and I realize, oh, wow, that's an aspect of me. That's who I chose to incarnate into. The body's very important for the lifetime, but it's only a single lifetime. And I just was very blasé. I was very detached. I'm like, oh, she's fine. I was not fine at all. But I was so interested in my pure soul form of following the white light, because that was what had come through. And the minute I'd popped out of my body, and then just had this little bit of sorting out what was the body and what was me as my higher self in soul form. But I can see this white light coming through the ceiling of the hospital room. I'm like, oh, I am following that. Nothing else had my interest or attention. And I was going to follow that white light up because I needed to see where it went. I needed to go home. So I did that and I just started going up and up and up. And very quickly, I pop out of the roof of the hospital. I did look back briefly for a moment as I was traveling up faster and faster, following the white light up, going back home. And I did think for a moment, oh, look at Earth. She's so beautiful. We've got to do more to take care of her. I remember thinking that, and then I focused on the light again. So I continue going faster and faster, feeling better and better. And then it was like, I just like stuttered to a stop. Like if you've ever been driving a car and you ran out of gas. So I was like, oh, I can't go any further. And I had this thought, oh, please don't make me walk through that long tunnel. I don't have enough energy. I'm afraid I won't get home. I need help. So the minute I had that thought, and I didn't know what a tunnel was. This was 1997. I was not following near death experiences or movies or tunnels of light. It wasn't part of my belief system. But I knew that many people went home through a tunnel. So the minute I think that I don't have enough energy to move, to go any further without help, this gorgeous escalator comes down for me. It is pristine. There's so much light coming off it. There's no one else on it. I know it's just for me. I know this is my ride home. So I plop myself gratefully onto the escalator and I was hanging over the handrail. And that made me realize what my body form was. I knew I was in pure soul form, and I knew I should have been like a beach ball, like this beautiful orb of energy, like a lightning storm inside it. Instead, I am flatter than a pancake, just clutching onto this escalator handrail and going up and up. So grateful for that ride, for that help. The top of the escalator, I am met immediately by my soul family. And they just all take me into this huge hug. And I can see the same angels just behind them that had been in my bathroom. There were 4 or 5 of them, and I could tell they were angels because they were larger. And there was more light and more love coming from them versus from my soul family. But I'm getting this group hug. There were about 18 or 20 souls that were there to welcome me home. And that hug, it was unconditional love. It just changed everything because I hadn't felt very much of that in my life. I hadn't felt enough of it. And that also made me realize we need to learn how to give unconditional love to ourselves. We need to learn how to forgive ourselves more easily, forgive others more easily, and just be in that place. So I'm just getting this amazing, amazing hug. I recognize my grandparents, my mom's parents, my maternal grandparents, who I knew well. That didn't surprise me because they passed on. I had a really close relationship with them. So that was wonderful. But I also recognized my dad's parents. And that was really interesting. And that taught me that there's a soul level recognition because I didn't know my dad's parents in this lifetime. They died before I was born. But you just know who souls are at that level. And you can learn to recognize that in daily life, not just when we're on the other side. I also was met by one of my best friends in this lifetime. That was fascinating because she's very much alive. So that made me realize, wait a minute, that's her higher self. So that means there's an aspect of our higher self, our soul, that's always at home with the light, with the divine, with heaven, whatever the universe, whatever your belief system is. So that was just amazing. So I'm getting this amazing group hug. And then Archangel Michael starts speaking to me, and I recognized immediately, oh, that's who was talking to me in my bathroom. How fortunate am I that that's who came in and helped me call for help and helped me get to the hospital. And what Michael said was, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You've done nothing wrong. You are welcome to stay. So I'm still in this group hug. I'm like, of course I'm going to stay. Why would I go anywhere else? I am getting this unconditional love that evidently I just so needed and craved. You can hear it still makes me emotional now. And it's so many years later. It was a big deal. So Michael continued, and what he said next was, you're welcome to stay, but if you want to go back, you're going to need to go quickly. And I flashed back on, oh, yeah, there's that hot mess in the hospital bed. She is not viable because I'm not there. She does not have a soul right now, and she is really in dire straits. So, what he said next, Michael said next, was, I can tell you three things to help you decide. Number one, if you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow and you will regain your health completely. Okay, this is the weight of the world starting to come off my shoulders from that, because I really was worried. And number two, I can tell you that your baby will be born healthy. Again, this is huge. I am so grateful for this information. I know it's the truth. And number three was the kicker. And because now I'm like, do I go back? Number three now sends me in the other direction again, because what Archangel Michael said was, if you choose to go back, your life is going to be very difficult for many years, most likely, because you're not on your life path. You're not living your purpose. So therefore, it's going to be very difficult. I am horrified. I'm embarrassed. I am shocked to hear this. No one wants to hear they're not on their life path. They're not living their purpose. I was 36 years old. I so wanted to be doing the right thing. So, of course, I asked him, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What should I be doing or not doing? Please enlighten me. I would be so grateful to know, what is my purpose? What is my path? He just gently shook his head. So I knew he wasn't going to tell me anything else. So I looked around because I thought, wait a minute, come on, group dynamics. I'm here with my whole soul group, the 18 or 20 people that know me the best, love me the best. There's got to be Chatty Cathy in the group. So I'm looking all around, getting frantic, just trying to find out, what's my purpose? What's my path? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? And no one will tell me anything. So my energy just starts to plummet. And at that point, because there's just perfect telepathy, there's just this perfect communication at home. We really are all one. We're all one all the time. It's just when we're in our dense human bodies on Earth, we forget that. So there's such a veil of amnesia. So my energy is just plummeting because no one's going to tell me and help me with what my purpose or my path is or my soul mission. And they realize I'm getting really upset. So they start being so funny. And they start putting like duct tape over their mouths, but like in a really humorous way. Or they do like a lock and a key and like throw the key away, but very, very comically. So I just start laughing. And I just start relaxing, and I realize laughing, it really is the best medicine. So I'm like, okay, I get it. You're not supposed to tell me. You're not able to tell me. I'm going to need to figure this out for myself. So I relax into that. And then Archangel Michael asks me, what do you want to do? You need to decide now. The minute he asks me that, Tia, all I can see is our toddler's face, this adorable little 18-month-old. And she had this brown curly hair and these huge hazel eyes. So I'm seeing my daughter Tara's face and her smile, but it's not normal size. It's like an IMAX screen. It's like 70 feet tall, like it fills my world top to bottom, side to side, all around me. And I'm not only going to have this amazing child to raise. I'm going to have another healthy baby and I'm going to regain my health completely. So I'm just going to have to figure out the purpose and the path. So when Michael asked me that question and I could see what I was meant to do, I said, "Put me back in, coach." I'm ready to play. I'm ready to engage in life at a deeper level, at a fuller level. So it just huge smile from him, from everyone else, and everyone just turns into cheerleader mode. And they're like, "We'll help you. We'll be with you. You can do it." And I get another huge hug from the group, from my soul family. And that time, it wasn't only unconditional love. I realized it was energy. They were giving me an energy download that I so needed. I don't think I would have survived that long and complex surgery the next day without having gotten that energy that I so needed. So Archangel Michael puts me back on the escalator, and I look over my shoulder, and I'm just waving goodbye. And everyone's, just as I said, this amazing cheerleader, like coach mode for me, and telling me, "You can do it, you can do it." And I go back down on the escalator, and I just pop right back into my hospital room. And then that white light starts to fade away, and I just go right back into my body. And it was easy as could be to go back into my body, and then the white light was gone. And I did have two thoughts as I landed. I was like, "Oh, wow, this is really painful. I'm looking forward to that successful surgery tomorrow and just being able to resolve this incredible pain." And that was number one. And my other thought was more comical. It was like, "Dang, why is she so small? I know my soul is so much bigger and so much more energy. Why did I choose this little petite 5'2" body? I feel really scrunched in there." So that was my other thought. And then I did have that successful surgery the next day, and everything just continued to change from there.
Why do you think you were a flat sphere or flattened pancake going up the escalator instead of that orb like you said you should have been?
Because I did not have I was dying. I was almost dead. So there was so little life force left when I did have the successful surgery the next day. And the my physician estimated during that 3 or 4 day period from when the organ had burst, the organ turned out to be, it was my uterus. It was the fundus at the top of the uterus, and that's an aorta. So I was just pumping out blood into the wrong place. It wasn't going into my bloodstream properly. So I was losing all this blood, and that's why my abdomen had distended like that. He estimated I lost, based on the amount of transfusions, he estimated I lost 3/4 of my blood supply. So I have the successful surgery. I rest up in the hospital for a few more days, and then I'm sent home for 6 weeks of strict bed rest. Believe me, I couldn't have done anything else if I tried. We were very fortunate that we had our wonderful live-in nanny who cared for our daughter, because she was also taking care of me, because my husband needed to be at work. So I'm recuperating and just trying to come to terms with everything that's happened, because it's been so um, mind blowing, and just so many things have shifted and changed for me. I don't know who to talk to about this experience. The irony of that, because I was living in Seattle, this was 1997, and Seattle IANS, the International Association for Near Death Studies, is the oldest chapter of IANS, which is the international group that supports near-death experiencers and their families and the community. And I didn't know about IANS, so it's just ironic because there I was in the perfect place to have been able to go to that support group. So evidently, I was meant to process it on my own, which I did. it took me about 20 years to be able to language it, to be able to fully integrate and unpack what had happened and to understand it. I still learn from it today. And so I recuperate at home for 6 weeks. I go back to work and I go back to a job I love. I was the marketing director for a busy ambulatory surgery center. And coworkers and people pass me in the hall. I've been out, for a good amount of time, and coworkers knew I was pregnant, so they're like, "Wendy, what happened? We're so glad you're back. Are you okay?" And I would just like look at them like, what do I even say? I would just say, I'm okay, I'm fine, glad to be back, thank you for your concern. It's like, I just don't know what to say. So I'm back at work for about 6 weeks, and it's now November, early November of 1997. And my boss calls me into his office on a Friday afternoon. I don't think a thing about it. We have a great relationship. I've been there for about 3 years, love the job, they love me. And I walk into his office thinking he wants to chat about the weekend or let me know something he needs done on the next week. And instead, when I walk into his office, I just see his energy, and he is just, struggling, very unhappy. And I see human resources sitting there also with my personnel file. So I know what this is the minute I walk in the room. This is the dreaded Friday afternoon layoff. So I get laid off from a job that I love, and we really counted on that full-time income. I also carried the health insurance for the entire family, and I'm pregnant. I'm now visibly pregnant, and I'm still recuperating. This is not the ideal time to be job searching, but that's now the position I'm in. Again, my employer, very kind, severance, tell me, please go ahead, file for unemployment. We'll give you great references. Let us know anything we can do to help you. But your job is gone. So I go home and share this with my family, and just we're just working to process this information, because since I'm expecting the second baby and everything had been going great in my healthcare career and in my husband's software career, we had purchased a new larger home. So we're pretty heavily mortgaged, and we count on those two incomes. But we needed the larger home, another child on the way, and we'd also purchased a minivan to again just have those two car seats, and easy to get to those two car seats. And our finances are not going to work well with one income. That was not our plan. So I file for unemployment. I'm looking for a job. I'm, working on the family finances. What expenses can we cut? Anywhere we can borrow. Things we can do differently. So I'm working on all this. And a week to the day after my layoff, my husband comes home from work about 3 hours late. I am really concerned by this point, because I'm thinking, has he been an offender bender? What's happened? Because he's not answering his phone, and I don't understand what's going on. It's about 8 o'clock on a Friday night when he walks in the door. I'm sitting in the living room, like by the front door at this point, because I'm so concerned. And he walks in. I have never seen him. He just looked crushed, weight of the world on his shoulders. And he said, "Wendy, I've got something really difficult to tell you." And I'm like, "Are you okay? What is going on?" And he says, let's sit down. I need to tell you something really difficult. And I've just gone to payless paydays. Our company, we just had to lay off our entire staff. We're down to just the 5 partners. He was one of 5 partners that owned this successful software company. They had about 100 employees. I had no idea that this was going on. It happened very suddenly. And he had a couple signs and signals, obviously, and he didn't want to worry me because of all that I had going on physically, and what had happened with the hospitalization and with the near-death experiences. So he lets me know, and I can't hear anything he's saying. He's trying to explain we need to, get all our employees on unemployment. We need to figure out what to do with our lease, and we need to, most importantly, we need to get the company sold. We need to find a way to have new employment for us. And I'm going to be doing a lot of programming. And I can't hear anything he's saying. It's like Charlie Brown, like when the adults talk, it's like, rah, 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 rah. I didn't hear anything he said after payless payday. So I had to say to him, I said, okay, slow down. I am so sorry this is happening. It's a really hard thing to lose a job you love, but to lose your company, that's got another level to it. So I'm trying to be empathetic. It's like, okay, we'll figure this out, but tell me what you mean by payless payday. And he explained he'd be working very long hours, 80 to 100-hour weeks to get this all figured out, and that I was going to need to figure out everything on the home front financially, for us to keep us afloat, because he was going to be doing programming and fulfilling contracts that they'd already sold, and again working to get the company sold and everything cleaned out and cleared up. I'm not happy with this decision, and I'm not happy. I don't feel like a partner, because it's just he's making all these decisions like it's his choice and only his choice. So this is starting to cause a real dichotomy for us. And so my next response was, okay, I'm so sorry. We'll figure it out. File for unemployment on Monday, and take the weekend, and we'll figure this out together. And the next unpleasant shock was, well, Wendy, I don't qualify for unemployment. I'm self-employed. I didn't know that. I had never been self-employed. So I'm like, wait a minute. We're down to literally my unemployment insurance only. We have no health insurance for any of us. I'm pregnant, and we have no coverage for the delivery. Is that where we're at? Yes, that's where we're at. So this was incredibly stressful. We were very fortunate. We were saved by Bank of Mom. My mother helped us, which was incredibly kind. She paid the shortfall each month. We would have lost our home. We would have had it taken away from us, and we would have had our car repossessed, because I tried negotiating. I just, nothing could be done. So fast forward to March 13th, 1998. Our baby is born healthy. Oh, one other important thing happened before that. I was at the pediatrician's office, and I heard Archangel Michael as clear as day. And he was playing with a lamp. He made this lamp that was on a side table get brighter and brighter. And I'm looking at it because I can hear him saying, look, look, to get my attention. So I looked over, and I could see a little brochure in front of the lamp. So I tucked my toddler under my arm and ran over and grabbed it, and shoved it in the diaper bag, and read it when I got home, Tia. It was such a lifesaver. What it was a program called WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. And I was able to qualify to get health insurance for the delivery, as well as health insurance for my daughter. And it also qualified us for some food assistance. So it was a specific type of food stamps and help for pregnant women, because we had not been qualifying for any assistance, because we were wealthy, because we owned a home and we had 2 cars. And of course, it was all about to go up in smoke if my mother hadn't stepped in for us. So I did qualify and was approved for what's now become called a drive-through delivery, a very short stay delivery in the hospital. But I did deliver in the hospital, which was so needed, because I was a very high risk pregnancy. I had one-on-one nursing, because I had to go through the entire pregnancy wondering if that repair that had been done to the top of the uterus, if it was going to hold. Because, and how much the uterus grows in pregnancy, because if that had not held, the baby would have gone up into my heart and lungs, which would have likely been death. So it was a very stressful way to go through the pregnancy. And I was very glad to have that hospital stay, because I was certainly not a candidate for an at-home delivery or any other type of delivery. So she is born healthy. I'm home the next morning, like 12 hours later, and just so exhausted, but just so thrilled, so much gratitude, so much relief. So I'm in the bedroom nursing the baby. I'm alone, and Archangel Michael comes in again, and he says, very conversationally, "Your contract with your husband is complete." I almost dropped the baby. It was not my finest moment. I'm now arguing and swearing at an archangel. And I'm like, "What do you mean my contract with my husband is complete? I just had a baby. Can I even catch my breath here?" And I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Let me ask him, "What do you mean my contract is complete?" And he said, "Your marriage is over." Wow. That was really something to know. I knew it was the truth. I knew it wasn't being said to me in an unkind way. I knew it was true. I would later learn, years later, when I was able to understand and to look for and ask, what are some of my key soul contracts? I learned what my contract was with my former husband, and it was for us to have a long marriage that we would both grow from considerably, and to have beautiful children together. And I could see the plural on children underlined 3 times in the soul contract. So here's the second child. The contract is complete. The marriage is over. What do you do with information like this? It's not easy. Some people can just glamorize and think, oh, it's so wonderful to have an NDE and you get all this help and you get all this information. It doesn't mean the information that is shared is easy. Am I grateful for it? Absolutely. Did I figure it out to the best of my ability? Absolutely. I knew I was supported in that. We did our very best to be kind, loving spouses and parents, but the marriage was over. And we divorced when our daughters were both in school full time. So, as our youngest miracle baby was entering first grade, we divorced at that time. We did it with a lot of peace. We worked to do it with a lot of kindness. We went to a 50-50 residential schedule and just did our very, very best to raise our daughters in two loving homes, and just to make things go as well as them as we could. We were fortunate again. My mother stepped to the plate. We were living in Seattle. She was living in Boston. I'm the only child, the only grandchildren. She was retired. And it was interesting, for about a year or two before this happened, her friends had been starting to say to her, "Why don't you consider moving out to Seattle? Go out and be with your daughter and son-in-law and your grandkids." So that is what she chose to do. And then over time, she and I built a duplex and lived in that duplex for 15 years. And it was just a wonderful way to have her be team grandmom. She not only helped me, she would help, of course, my former husband too, because she wanted to help the family and wanted to help the kids, and she didn't play any favorites. So that's what rolled out next. And what really got me on my spiritual path was when my daughters were 6 and 12. It was 6 years after the divorce. I'd had zero interest in dating, in meeting someone new. I just was focused on taking care of the girls, on rebuilding my career, on my mother and I getting the new home built. But all of a sudden, when my daughters were 12 and 14, doing great, everything was going well. We were in the new homes, and I just knew it was time to meet a great guy. Had no idea how to do so. I didn't feel like I was meeting anyone at church or, friends of friends. I just didn't know how to meet someone. I hadn't been on a date in 25 years. So I asked my younger girlfriends who were actively dating, and I said, how do you meet a great guy? And they said, oh, Wendy, that's so easy. You just need to go on match.com. And I said, Match. What? I don't know. What are you saying to me? I have no idea. I didn't know what online dating was. And so girlfriends helped me at that time. It was 2010, and they helped me put together a dating profile. And the minute I changed the geography, because you put in on Match, you put in what distance are you willing to be from the person that you want to meet. And the minute I changed it to 10 miles, this profile came up. I could not look away from the screen. It was like I knew this man. I knew him at the deepest level. I'm reading through his profile, which was very unique, very well written. And the last line in it was, it's like I was two sentences ahead. It was like I could feel it in my heart. I knew in my bones what it was going to say, but there was nothing trite or predictable about it. What the last sentence was, any woman on a spiritual journey, particularly one interested in an LBL, we have to meet. I'm like, that's it, that's it, that's it. So I'm then Googling LBL. What's LBL? And that took me to Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, to past life regression, to life between lives. And I emailed this match right away. I said, I feel like I know you. And we need to talk about this. I said, are you talking about Journey of Souls? Are you talking about life between lives? Is that what the abbreviation stands for? And he writes right back and says, yes, absolutely. What do you know about it? I said, well, I'll know a lot more when the book gets here from the library. I just ordered it from the library. It was before Kindle instant gratification. And so it took us so he and I cannot stop talking. We're on the phone, we're emailing, we're just back and forth trying to arrange our schedules to meet. And we're playing the how do I know you game. And we're thinking, oh, it must have been through like a professional organization, some like chance encounter, because we know each other, but we can't figure out how. We're going through everywhere we've lived and traveled and trying to figure this out. So it takes 3 weeks for our schedules to sync up, and we plan to meet for lunch at a restaurant near my work, because that was near to his home. And he was self-employed, so that just all came together, and that gave me a chance in that 3 weeks for the Journey of Souls to arrive and for me to read it. So I'm sitting in the restaurant waiting for him to arrive. I got there first. I'm just sitting in the foyer. The minute he walked in the door, it was like an earthquake. It was like the earth was moving, and I could hear nothing is ever going to be the same. And I couldn't stand up. So he came over, he recognized me immediately, and he dropped down on his knee in front of me, and he was just peering in my eyes and in my face. And he said, I know you. I know you. And I'm like, I know, we have to figure out how, because I know you too. So he helped me up by the elbow, and I'm like, oh, Wendy, act normal. Walk in and have lunch, and you'll figure this out. So we were there for 3 hours. We didn't want to leave, but we both had to get back to work. It was a weekday, and we could not stop talking. We were finishing each other's sentences. It was one of the most amazing conversations of my life. And what we realized was we knew each other from past lives. We knew we had significant past life energy together. So we started dating, and it was an incredible, incredible experience. It turned into highest highs and lowest lows for me. It became not healthy. It became a not good relationship, but I didn't know how to turn away from it because there was such intensity and there were so many good things about it. So when we were just finding the past lives and just working our way through them, and it just was really, really incredible. I would later learn he had the contract to wake me up spiritually, and he would end up finding my first past life regressionist for me. And I would go and have my first past life regression, and he would drive me to that session. It's back in the day when they were only done in person. And also, he would take me to my first Life Between Lives a year later with that same wonderful Newton therapist in downtown Seattle. The reason he'd put that comment in his match profile was he was getting ready to go for his own second Life Between Lives at the point when we met. So he was just really on the spiritual journey and just became that just I don't know what to call it. I don't want to use the term hack. I don't like that term, but it was like a quick start for me for it just to really kick from nothing into 12th gear. So we learn that he's got the contract to wake me up spiritually. So that's great. That's wonderful. I'm so ready for it, so grateful for it. I also would learn later, after we were no longer together, he ended the relationship after 13 months of dating exclusively. He ends the relationship by email. Gee, didn't really appreciate that one. And I would learn that another huge contract we had together was for him to break my heart repeatedly until I stood in my power fully without abusing it. That is such a brilliant, powerful contract, but no one deserves or should have their heart broken repeatedly. You've got to stand up for yourself. You've got to get out of any relationship like that. No, that's just a no. So grateful that he ended it. And then interestingly, I did become a past life regressionist because my first sessions that I had, they changed everything. I was able to release anxiety in the very first session. I learned so much in my first Life Between Lives. When I transcribed the 4-hour session and I transcribed the recording, 65 pages of information for me. So this is how profound these things were. And on the fourth session that I had, I then started working with a Dolores Cannon therapist for quantum healing hypnotherapy. And she said to me after the first session, do you realize you're not only speaking as your higher self, you're not only speaking as your guides, you're also doing my part. And you're saying to me, ask her this, tell her this. You're doing all the parts. You've clearly been a past life regressionist or something very closely related before, and you're meant to do that again. I was like, oh my gosh. And again, when I listened to that recording and was reading the transcript, I was like, she's absolutely right. So I did train for it shortly after that. So that's some of the incredible things that just happened, starting with the near-death experience and then via meeting this really important soulmate that got me on my path.
Yeah, and it really changed your life. Do you feel like your near-death experience kind of opened you up to the other side so you could move through your life in the way that it was meant to be lived?
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. My guides said, they still joke, they're like, yeah, you are a tough nut to crack because just spirituality wasn't on my radar. I was just conservative, busy, hardworking, mother of two, when we were married, and then after the divorce, just, the complexity of running everything and the kids back and forth between the two homes and both of us working full time. So not really much more happened for about 6 years until I was ready to meet someone, and then that was evidently the right time for everything to start to kick into high gear, with just that opening to continue so beautifully. So I also became a certified spiritual teacher. I became a Reiki master energy healer. I became a channel, and I did all these things because they were so amazing, interesting, intriguing. Just I couldn't stop reading, and then listening to podcasts once those became more popular, and YouTube, because it's changed since 2010 when this first started happening. For me at that point, it was still more read a book. And things just kept opening and changing so beautifully. A huge step came in 2017 when I was laid off from a job that I really loved. I'd been there for about 10 years. That time I knew it was coming. And I was very fortunate because two or three spiritual teachers, psychic mediums, friends had told me, Wendy, it feels like there's a change coming for you career wise. Are you ready for that? And it feels like you're meant to be doing all these things full time, because I'm still working the full time day job because that's my security blanket. Hey, I'm a single mom. And I had two daughters who I really knew were meant to go to college, and I just wanted to support them through that process, and money was tight. So I was not going to quit the great job with the benefits and the 401k and everything else. So I was seeing maybe two clients a month was all I had time for, on every other weekend when the kids were at their dad's. And so in about the 6 months or so leading up to the layoff on June 30th, 2017, I just was working to, okay, what do I do if there were to be a layoff? Let's be really smart financially and just prepare for that the best I can in case that is what's coming. And that is exactly what happened. And at that point, I started looking for a traditional job again. I thought, okay, I just need to be smart and cover the bases to support my daughters and I here. Let me look for the traditional job, and let me also go ahead and hang my shingle and go ahead and create a website and just see, what happens. Can I do both? Can I maybe working part-time in traditional employment and be growing my business? But no traditional employment came. That was really scary. It was really odd because great experience. I have an MBA degree. I've had my MBA since I was 22. I was networked amazingly all throughout, the Seattle area. I couldn't find a job. So when I sat and meditated and talked with my guides, they said, grow your business. You're meant to be in service. You're meant to be self-employed. And over time, you'll learn what it means to be spiritually employed. And then you'll learn to take the word employed out of it. And you'll just be in spiritual service. And that will support you as you support others. And I thought, wow, that is quite a progression of how to think about employment. So they just showed me that, and how the stages would come. So it's now been about 7 years that I've been full time working with clients.
And Archangel Michael told you your life was going to be very difficult because you weren't following your path. Has your life become less difficult since you started your journey?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Absolutely. The differences in my health, the differences in how happy I feel, the differences in the feeling of peace, my confidence, my competence, it is night and day since I got on my path. And it just continues to grow like that. I am so much healthier and happier. I was at the point where I was in so much physical pain. I had issues with chronic physical pain to the point where I was almost in a wheelchair. And that has all been reversed. And that was not an easy thing to do after having been more and more crippled by pain, which was the energy not flowing and me not being on my path and being too afraid to step onto my path. So bit by bit by bit, we got that resolved. And that is, of course, the type of client that I often attract is someone struggling with chronic pain, be it physical or emotional, or someone struggling with anxiety or depression, and it just dampening their entire life. So being able to figure out the lifetimes of origin for that and to get them freed up from that, it's there could not be anything more rewarding in the world.
And we're running out of time, but I do want to touch on your shared death experience with your uncle. Can you tell us briefly about what happened there? Because those can be very validating experiences for people when they actually are experiencing it with someone else.
Absolutely. What happened was my uncle was elderly and he was in a nursing home for the last few months of his life. And I had not been able to see him because he was out in the Carolinas and I was living in Seattle. And what happened was I knew he was getting near to the end, and he had wonderfully been brought home. And there was a hospice nurse with him. He just wanted to be back in his home. It was so important to him. And one morning, I woke up because my cat was just standing on my chest, just on like full alert, looking in a corner of the room. So I looked over and I was like, oh my gosh, Uncle Jack is there. And I could just feel his presence. And I was like, how are you? How are you doing? And he said, oh, I feel great. He's like, I'm leaving my body. I'm going on home. He says, I'm doing like my final rock star tour. I'm like going around and saying goodbye to everybody. And I could see him, Tia, just de-aging and de-aging. He looked like he was about 40 to me. And I remembered this happy period when I was in high school and he'd come over to our house after work and he always had these just ratty denim cutoff shorts on. He like couldn't wait to get out of his engineer clothing. And that's what he looked like. He was de-aging. So we practiced walking to the light. I said, do you want to walk home? It's because it's one of the things I help people do. And he said, yeah, sure, let's practice it. So we did that. I was like, okay, I can't go any further. He says, I know. He says, I've got it. This was just wonderful to see you. I've got it. I'm going to go home. So I got up. I was like, that was such a beautiful experience. It lasted about 10 minutes. And so I got up and took my shower and got dressed and went to work. And I was not surprised at all to get the call at work that he passed about 2 hours after I had this experience with them. And I thought he's already home to the light. He just went like a bullet after doing his rock star tour. It was really uplifting.
That is very uplifting. And if that's not validation, I don't know what is, because how are you going to pinpoint the time of his death?
Right, right, exactly. And both his daughters, my cousins, said the same thing. They're like, wow, we could just feel we could feel his presence. And they were able to get to his bedside. And one of his son-in-laws was also able to get to his bedside, even though the person may seem unconscious. Just say what you need to say and just help lift them up and let them know it's okay to go. Let them know that they can go and they'll be helped and loved and lifted up and supported. And then people can just let go.
If my viewers wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted past life regression, which by the way, does that work by distance? Like, do you do it on Zoom?
Yes, all sessions are via Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah,
If they
yes.
wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted that or had questions for you, how can they find you?
My website is my full name, wendyrosewilliams.com. And you're so welcome to join me for a complimentary group energy healing session or a workshop that I offer. And you'll also see the link there how to sign up for the private healing sessions, which includes past life regression.
That's great. I'll link that down below in the video description for anyone who wants to find you. They can easily just click on that. And thank you so much, Wendy, for
Oh,
joining
thank
me
you.
today. Oh man, the pleasure's been mine. It was gripping. Your story is absolutely fascinating. And I know thank you for helping or for sharing because I know that it helps so many.
My pleasure. And thank you.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.